So today, really quickly, this is just going to be a video going over my conversations with Kyle Curtis, since it's come up that someone believes that I gave Kyle legal advice. So I want to go through the timeline, the messages, and let you come to your own conclusions, whether that statement is true or not. So let's start at the beginning. Now you'll see here right at the top, I called Kyle on July 13th, 2019, and I asked him to be careful with their public statements. And as you can see on my message on July 15th, 2019, I said I reached out to the Steve & Co. They got the message. I hope sounds like they did, and one can only hope. Now, you may be interested in what message I'm talking about. Well, it was my impression that both Kyle and Steve were admitting to crimes in video, in public statements, and I was warning them that they should not make these public statements. Now, I reached out to both Kyle and I reached out to both Ruhef and explained to them my concerns about the statements that they were making that seemed to be criminal in nature. And maybe it would be best if they would resolve this privately instead of making these public statements that could be of a criminal nature. So that's why I reached out to both Kyle and I reached out to both Ruhef. To be fair, after warning both sides, neither side brought the issue up again publicly. Now, as you can see, the next time I spoke to Kyle was 6 months later in January 24th, 2020. I say, hey, Kyle, good to see you're back on your feet. I have a business proposition for you. Let me know if you are game. Do tell. Now, the reason I had even reached out to Kyle at this time was because I was doing the Magic Sandwich Show and I was trying to build my own channel. And as you can see from the screen, the artwork from our channels was okay, but it wasn't anything close to what the Non Sequitur was, as you can see on the screen. And Kyle had a talent for the artwork. So our plan was just to ask Kyle if he would be interested in maybe helping us with the artwork at a cost. You know, we'd pay him to do some stuff for my own channel and for even the Magic Sandwich Show. And it's interestingly enough, later on, he actually did do artwork for my channel. Here are some of the thumbnails that Kyle produced for my channel. So our next conversation is January 24th. Now, this is after the default judgment has already been put in. And I reach out to Kyle, not to even talk about the lawsuit, but then to ask him about if he would be willing to do some artwork for my own channel and even possibly for the Magic Sandwich Show. It's good to have consistent artwork, and I think Kyle was really good at artwork. I don't think anybody would deny that he was extremely good at the thumbnails, the overlays, and things, the look and feel of the Non Sequitur Show. So I wanted to ask him if he would be willing to do that for my channel and even for the Magic Sandwich Show in a limited capacity. During that conversation, I asked him, how's it going with the lawsuit? Kyle then responded that he was nervous because he didn't know what financial records that he needed to turn over. He just was confused. I said, well, you don't have any business records? And he said he has all the stuff, but he just doesn't know how to put them all together. So I said, well, listen, you could either do one or two things: get an accountant or find somebody who knows how to put business records together and maybe help you out. He said he didn't know anybody. So I said, well, listen, I know someone who does mergers and acquisitions. They look at these type of business records all the time. It's kind of just like doing your taxes at the end of the year. You may not have kept meticulous records, but at the end of the year, the government gives you forms and everything so you can put it into a nice little package and then turn it over, you know. That's how we all do it every year. So I said, well, let me reach out to Agrippa and see if Agrippa would even be willing to help you. I reached out to Agrippa. Agrippa said, hey, I would be willing to help. So then I sent Kyle Agrippa's email. And again, Agrippa's only thing Agrippa was going to do was just take the information that Kyle gave him and just put him into a package. So it would just be like, you know, earnings and loss statements or whatever those business things are. And as you can see, Kyle later says, you know, send him a request on Discord and I'll email him. So that was how Agrippa got involved, because during that conversation, Agrippa was just going to help Kyle just take all the business records and put them into something that was just manageable. So when you turn it over to the court, it would be done. So now this is my next message to Kyle on January 27th. Hey, I hope all is well. Wanted to wish you good luck. Hopefully Agrippa can help you organize everything. I want to remind you to speak to an attorney in your area for help. Usually the consultations are free. I wish I could help, but this is not really my field and I'm not licensed in North Carolina. Good luck. Now, why did I send that to Kyle? Because he had asked me if there's anything that he could do. And I said, well, generally for default judgments, you either, you can settle it, you can file for bankruptcy, or you can set aside. But you have to speak to an attorney in your area to find out even if those options are available to you. Kyle then told me that he was going to speak to a bankruptcy attorney. And I said that was a good idea because if that attorney would be able to help you, whether you're going to choose any of these options. So that's why his next message says, hey man, I have a consult tomorrow and I've sent over all of the financial records to Agrippa. He was going to go speak to an attorney about his options because of the default judgment. Now, if you look at our next message, which comes on February 2nd, he says, hey man, I've been thinking about it and I'd like to talk to you about what you're looking for the Magic Sandwich Show at that point. Again, that's what we were talking about. That's what I was trying to figure out with Kyle, whether we were going to do some artwork for the Magic Sandwich Show. So when you have a second, so obviously he says, cool. So this is what our conversation was around that time. Now, if you look at the court documents on February 6, 2020, Kyle filed his motion to set aside the default judgment. So here's our conversation on January 5th. The day right before. Kyle calls me and says, hey man, I may have stumbled onto something interesting. I want to pick your brain. I said, call me. Now, I had no idea that this was setting aside a default judgment. I didn't know what he was talking about. So then he calls me and I think I missed his call. And in this phone call, he explains to me that he believes he may have been improperly served. So I explained to him again that I can't give him any type of legal advice with it. But it seems like that would be a concern, and he needed to speak to an attorney immediately to protect his rights if his rights have been violated. So that's why my next question after our conversation is, how'd it go? And I'll also admit that on this phone call, I said that setting aside a default judgment or that is not the only option, and that he really needs to speak to an attorney to figure this out, because it's not as easy as a lot of people think. Our next message after how'd it go is he sends me this later on that evening, says, I'm getting off in about an hour and meeting with the notary at 9, and sends me this picture of an affidavit. I then respond with this video, 3 ways to deal with a default judgment. Again, letting him know that this is not the only way to deal with it. There are other options. And here's a video that just outlines them. It tells you the same 3 ways that I had already told him before: bankruptcy, setting it aside, or settling. Here's a clip from the video.
If a default judgment has been entered against you, what do you do now? You do have a few options. The first thing you can do is you can ask the court to set aside that default judgment and give you an opportunity to contest it. Next, you can settle the debt with the debt buyer for an amount less of what the default judgment is. And finally, you can eliminate this judgment completely by filing for bankruptcy.
So the next relevant text message exchange was this, where we start making fun of Steve saying that that Kyle had actually moved in with his boyfriend, and we were laughing about it, funny stuff. But then this is the next email. What's your email? I'll send you a copy of the motion that is now filed. Now, again, this was February 7th. He filed the motion on February 6th. I said, I will pull it off the court's website. I can't give you any tips, but I will look at it. And I redacted my email address. And then Kyle responds, didn't even think you'd be able to pull it off the website. But yeah, so I hadn't even seen it. And he was sending it to me, and he was like, hey, it's uploaded. I'll send it to you now. And the reason why is because I kept saying, don't send me anything. I don't want to see anything. I'm reporting on the case, but I'm not a part of the case. I can't give you any tips. And I know myself, if you start sending me stuff, I'm going to be like, this is, I didn't even want to get involved in that. So that's why, if you want to send it to me, I'll look at it. Otherwise, I don't want to deal with it. So again, this was after Kyle had actually filed this motion to set aside. That's when I actually first saw it. He sent it to me. So then on February 11th, now I think this is important because on February 12th, Kyle then filed another motion, right? And this is where he turned in all that evidence. So this is the day before. Again, February 11th. He says, I got another doc drop for you. I says, what? LOL. Evidence, the evidence file from a motion to dismiss with prejudice has a rent agreement, statements, bank account addresses with dates, tax information, and a transcript of Steve's confession. I said, oh my God, when? He put about to file in a few hours. I put, I'll be ready. Wow. He put, I'm making a redacted version and will email it over to you. And again, I say, for the record, you should speak to an NC attorney about this. I can't give you any advice, but I really strongly suggest you do. And then he sends me the redacted PDF of the motion to set aside film judgment. And he puts, I have my friend. Now, who this friend is, I don't know. I just assumed that it was an attorney that he knew that was helping him through the process. I didn't know who this person was. I didn't know what this person did. Only thing I knew was what Kyle was telling me. And to be honest, I didn't really even care who that person was. I didn't want to get involved in giving anybody any type of advice that would be considered legal advice. So that's why you see, I keep telling him, go speak to an attorney. And he assured me that he not only did he speak to an attorney, he had one helping him. So these are the facts. If someone can show you facts or show you any evidence that disproves this, I would like to see it, because these are all the messages that me and Kyle have going back and forth. And it looks pretty clear what the conclusion is. Now, if you can look at these statements and look at these messages and believe that I in some way was helping Kyle by giving him legal advice to tell him how to file stuff and do all this stuff, that's just not accurate. It just isn't. And here's the evidence to prove it. So you're not entitled to your own facts, but you are entitled to your own opinion. And I leave it to you. Talk to you later.